Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. It's the Tuesday, July 28th, 2026 episode of The Marco Jure Show, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. I've got a lot to discuss with you today, and I want to get right down to brass tacks so we can hopefully cover everything on today's program. Lindsey Graham's funeral services are today at the Capitol Rotunda. First, J.D. Vance, Majority Leader John Thune, will speak on his behalf at this point. Following that, there will be another service at the Washington National Cathedral, where both President Trump and Sean Hannity will be addressing the crowd. But I think the biggest takeaway from today, de facto President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will also be in attendance to pay their respects to Lindsey Graham. Now, Lindsey Graham was no stranger in his support for both Israel and Ukraine's war efforts. The man was clearly a war hawk, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying the obvious. He was very boisterous and unapologetic about his support for wars going all the way back to Iraq, and he never changed course from that. The man liked war. So therefore, he's a personal favorite of Zelenskyy and Netanyahu. But why are they both here? Obviously, they're both here with their hands wide open, to see what President Trump will give them in their attempts to prolong the wars in which they're both involved in, and of course to survive politically. That's the biggest takeaway from this. That's what today's all about for them. How can they turn this into something advantageous for themselves? Well, according to CNBC, it says here that both leaders are planning to meet with President Trump during their respective visits. During these meetings, it could obviously give Netanyahu Zelenskyy a very big chance to push their agendas on President Trump amid the global conflicts in the Middle East and, of course, Ukraine alike. Now, they both have a kind of success rate with President Trump to get him to buy into their positions. Obviously, Netanyahu is the king at this. But Zelenskyy, again, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. We saw some back and forth with Trump, but we see him coming around to it. We're going to be giving them more aid in this upcoming round of the National Defense Authorization Act. We've heard him discuss, obviously, the giving of materials and the patents for creating Patriot missiles. I mean, we're not out of these wars, folks. We never have been. And I gotta say, for someone who ran on ending wars on day one, remember, the Ukraine war was supposed to be done on day one. He said that within 24 hours, that war will be done. Well, here we are, which is July the next year. We're almost August now. We're still heavily involved in this conflict. Now, we haven't given as much as the Biden administration, but we're still engrossed in it. Look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what we're doing with Iran. This is all at the behest of Israel, of course. And how do we know this? Well, because their politicians say just that. This is good for Israel's interest. Now, they're not going to get involved in it because their eyes are set on Lebanon right now. Their eyes are set on Gaza and the West Bank, and we see everything heating up in those areas. With no end in sight, too, by the way, where there's supposed to be ceasefires. But as I told you previously, Netanyahu has never seen a ceasefire he will ever agree to. And sadly, President Trump is acting in the same type of behavior. They're both akin to one another. Now, I have to be honest with you. I believe that both of them being here is a part of a bigger effort to keep Trump into both these wars, to keep him involved in it. Why do I say this to you? Because what we're seeing right now is the coming together of both Ukraine and Israel. And that really took place over the weekend when the conflicts kind of overlapped one another. You had Ukraine killing a sailor after its military struck an Iranian commercial vessel in the Caspian Sea. So obviously it's one of the trade routes that allows Iran to trade with Russia. And the vessel was alleged to be transporting weapons to aid Russia. Interesting. That's what Kiev had said. Now, Tehran, on the other hand, has not come out and said that specifically, but they declared it as a hostile and criminal act. This is a way, again, to get Ukraine into the greater war. Remember I told you, this is an ever-widening war. This is expanding beyond Israel, Lebanon, the U.S. and Iran, Russia, Ukraine. It's expanding into other areas and other nation states in the region. We just saw Iraq fire drones at Saudi Arabia. We see Yemen, the Houthis, and Ansarallah firing back into Saudi Arabia, blowing up the oil terminals in Yanbu and Jazan. I mean, this is getting out of control. So you'll never forget that I always ask, where are the people asking for peace? Where are the candidates? Where are the news pundits that are asking, where is the peace? We see none of it here. We see absolutely nobody saying the words peace. We'll hear ceasefire from time to time. We'll hear people champion that, but we never hear about people championing a peace effort. In any of these countries, too, by the way. Certainly no politicians. So I'm very, very worried about what's going on here. I'm sure we'll hear later today about how these meetings have gone and what will be discussed. I imagine Netanyahu will discuss Israel's security and their strength with President Trump and how they're a team. Netanyahu did go on to say that the safeguard to Israel's security, strengthen its power, to expand the circle of peace around us. He's doing a great job of that, by the way. Yeah, go ask the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank if they feel like there's peace all around them in the region. Ask Lebanon. Ask the people in southern Lebanon who've been told never to come back to their homes, all 1.5 million of them. Unbelievable that he could even utter the words peace. That's not what they want. What peace means to them is complete capitulation from the other party. That's exactly what peace means to them. Put down your weapons. We rule over you. We'll tell you where to go. We'll tell you what to eat. And if we tell you to get the hell out, you'll get the hell out. And if we take your home, hey, great. You're not going to do anything. That's what peace means to them. Now, that's obviously not everybody in Israel or everybody in Ukraine or everybody in the U.S., of course. But this is really what Netanyahu means when he says things like this. And so, folks, again, I want to hone in on this because you're seeing this trilateral framework really start to foment between these three countries, the U.S., Israel, and Ukraine. And they all need each other. Well, of course, the Ukrainians, the Israelis need the United States in order to survive this. Yeah, you have some support from the other EU countries behind Ukraine right now. Merz in Germany is gung-ho about fomenting more war, of course. And that's going to be expanding into a larger war with NATO at some point, believe you me. We're already seeing the framework for that starting to take place. Remember, folks, if Putin does not end this war soon, I think he's going to find himself at war with much of Europe, and I don't think he wants that. And I think he's starting to understand that. He's beginning to give more speeches, again, about persevering and pushing through and, of course, taking what is Russia's. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to say to you that right now what we're seeing with the war efforts in the United States and Iran, of course, we're seeing that President Trump has not struck any targets since last Thursday, which everyone is very happy about. We see the price of oil beginning to come down. That's temporary. That's only going to be temporary. It's a pause. It's a pause in action. It's not an end to the war. There is no end to this war right now. And as time goes on, we get further and further away from the Memorandum of Understanding and its framework, which prevents all further negotiation. So how can we sit here and say that things are going well? Now, of course, I don't want to see any bombing. I don't think any rational person does. The warmongers do. Of course, the war hawks do. The chicken hawks do. But most rational people want a stop to this conflict. The Pakistanis, the Chinese would love to see a negotiation. But I think the Iranians have come to the conclusion. I think it's taken a while for them, but I think they've come to the conclusion. And by the way, I think Putin has come to the same conclusion as well. You cannot deal with President Trump. Now, it hurts me to say that to you. I voted for President Trump 3 times. I thought he was a man of peace. I thought he was going to get us out of these conflicts. I thought this would be well behind us by now. Sadly, everything continues to escalate and get out of control. But President Trump, 3 different occasions with the Iranians, was in negotiations with them, was setting up further negotiations, and twice he decided to strike them amid negotiations. That's perfidy. That's against international law. That's acting in good faith and letting the other party know that you're not being hostile, and then, of course, you attack them while they're not ready. That's perfidy. That's illegal. We should not be doing that. All over discussions about nuclear weapons, which, again, our intelligence agencies have told us time and time again the Iranians do not have a nuclear weapon. That's not Marco Gerais telling us you. It's our own intelligence. And when you hear from people like Joe Kent, who worked in counterterrorism, or Tulsi Gabbard, who led national intelligence, they said exactly what I'm saying to you. There is no nuclear weapon. There is no threat coming from Iran. Certainly no imminent threat. Okay, it's not like there were planes flying in the United States with, bombs attached to them. That's not what was going on here. And I've always told you, when diplomacy fails, they take us to war. The Iranians wouldn't budge. The Iranians held to their ground that they would give us a certain amount of what the United States wanted. That wasn't good enough for President Trump, and certainly not for Prime Minister Netanyahu. They wanted complete submission, and the way they would achieve that is by regime change. They didn't get it, so that's off the table. Regime change is not happening. It will never happen in Iran. And we see this happening. We couldn't get our own paramilitary groups in the region, the Mujahideen al-Khalqs, the Kurds, the Baluchis, the other Arab factions that reside inside of Iran that are not terribly friendly to the government, of course. We armed them, we equipped them, we guided them, we organized them, and that didn't work either. So not only did we take down their currency in January of this year, the rial, we devalued it, which led to economic, peaceful protests by real Iranians, of course. And then, of course, you had it hijacked by these groups. And we know this was true because the Iranians turned off the internet, right? They prevented Starlink from accessing the cellular devices. They arrested these people. They took their phones. And what did they find? They saw a female Mossad agent draped with the Shah's Iranian flag around her, giving them instructions as what to do, what to say, where to go. If you're arrested, what to say. I mean, this is all, again, all right out in the open for anybody that cares to see it. And then President Trump later claimed, oh, yeah, we gave them weapons. We should do that again. Okay, so again, just corroborating more and more what I've been telling you. So that didn't work. So regime change was out of the question. President Trump thought after 3 to 5 days, everything would collapse in Iran. We'd have a victory. It'd be swift. Everyone would cheer on President Trump. You finally took down the Iranian regime. The Islamic Republic is no more. Now we can go back to our puppet state again like we had under the Shah. But that didn't happen. So now we had to remove the goalpost. What's the next objective we can have? Well, it's got to be their ballistic missile program. We can't have that. It could reach into Europe. Oh, well, they definitely can't have a nuclear weapons. They can't enrich uranium. No. Well, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump, back in 2018, did exactly just that. He took us out of the JCPOA, which, by the way, if he didn't like it, he could have certainly negotiated another deal. But he completely just ripped it up. Just totally took us out of out of any type of binding contract with the Iranians to stick to that plan. And by the way, after that, the Iranians still allowed for the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association, to come in and conduct these inspections still. That's why you had Rafael Grossi come out and say, yeah, they're not developing a nuclear weapon. I mean, this is the guy who runs the organization. There's no evidence of it. Now, I will give you obviously, the Iranians were developing and enriching uranium to 60%. Now, anyone from the outside would look at that and say to themselves, okay, this looks like they're enriching past the civilian and the medical purposes of which you would use uranium. This looks like they could, develop a nuclear weapon. I don't disagree with that. But there's no evidence they were past the 90% threshold in order to do so. Now, why might have they been doing that? Well, there's a couple ideas, of course. One could have been they were showing the United States, look what we can do. Come to negotiate with us. Remove these sanctions off us. But that didn't happen. And President Trump had a great deal with them back in June of last year. Obviously, he could have gotten 3.75% enriched uranium at the most. The promise to no nuclear weapons, which again, I think is odd for the number one state sponsor of terror, that they would be negotiating to limit their capabilities to cause massive destruction, especially when the state has never attacked anybody since the 1789, the last time the Iranians attacked another country, one of their neighbors. So basically, since the Constitution was ratified and George Washington first took office, that is when the last time the Iranians attacked somebody else, the government, of course. But I digress. Okay. So, folks, it's funny when you look at the real facts and what we're being told, and nothing seems to add up to what's actually going on. But Trump could have had a great deal, and it would have been perfect, but he let Netanyahu do the same thing he did back in February, last June. He allowed them to go in and attack. And now we're left with trying to fix this war. We're left trying to end this war. The Iranians do not trust President Trump's word. That is a big problem, especially when you're trying to end a conflict. Now we have the Strait of Hormuz that is closed, essentially. We see the same thing happening in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula. Now the Saudis can't get their oil out. And we hear the same talk time and time again. Now we're hearing it. Of course, we're in friendly talks are underway. Really? With who? Who in the Iranian government is talking to you? Now, here's what's really happening. I'll just tell you the truth. The Iranians are talking to the Pakistanis. That's true. There's certain intermediaries that speak amongst each other, but there is no direct conversation. The Iranians are not on their knees begging to end this conflict. They're not. In fact, what they actually see is that the longer this goes on, the better it will be for the Iranians. The better it will be for themselves. Because they know Trump's stockpiles are limited. They know that the U.S. military bases in the region are essentially been decimated. They're inoperable. They're losing ground as to where they can fire missiles into Iran from. They know that this is a game of time. So in other words, the longer this plays out, the longer the U.S. and Iran are going tit for tat, the better it will be for the Iranians. So Trump can threaten to blow up a bridge, the two most important bridges, I think that's what he said the other day, saying that he can cripple Iran with full force. Then why haven't we done it yet? You claim they're the number one state sponsor of terror. I debunked that several times on the program already, with facts, with our own CIA's own documentation. The number one state sponsors of terror are Sunni Muslim terror groups like the Taliban, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, like Hayat Tahrir Hashem. All these, by the way, he now leads Syria, this guy who Trump welcomes into the White House, into the Oval Office, and claims that this is a great ally of the United States. It's unbelievable. This guy killed Americans, actually killed Americans, and he's welcomed into the White House. He's met with praise by General David Petraeus. Petraeus or Petraeus? I don't know which one it is. I don't know. But this is all problematic because now we're not in a position where we can negotiate from any type of strong standpoint. That's the problem here. We are losing ground as time goes on because we're the ones that want these negotiations to happen. Trump wants a negotiation, but every time he does it, he thwarts it. He thwarts it. And by the way, he hasn't been happy with J.D. Vance, I'm told. J.D. Vance is one of the few people left that will actually tell him what's actually going on. And actually, there have been rumors Trump was once asking, how can he fire the vice president, which he cannot do. He could fire his cabinet, but he certainly can't fire Vice President Vance. So Trump has been kind of at odds, and people understand this. He's more irritable now. Again, he's saying things off the cuff. No filter. Some things don't really add up. A lot of non sequiturs going on here. You'll hear 1 second that the Iranians are striking all these vessels in the region. Oh, look at what they're doing. Number one state sponsor terrorism. But then every time we go to meet with them, they're more than willing to sit down and negotiate the lack of having their own nuclear weapons, which I think is going to be changing in this new era of the Islamic Republic under Mojtaba Khamenei. I think he'll be much more of a hardliner than his father will be. And I think the Iranians will certainly, if they get anything from the United States, up front they're going to want much more before they even entertain negotiations. So in other words, I think they'll want their frozen assets back, access to their money, access to the reconstruction money, which again was in the memorandum of understanding, the ability to have tolls, a whole several slew of things. And by the way, first and foremost on that list is going to be about Lebanon. They want the war to stop in Lebanon, so Trump has got to rein in Netanyahu, should he be able to, which I don't believe he can. And I think that will also probably be discussed today, too. If you're going to make a deal, don't add the the war with Lebanon in there, because they're not going anywhere. Netanyahu knows this is his last hurrah. He's probably not going to get reelected, I would imagine. He might try to, but it's probably certainly not going to work. So lots at play here. Again, we hear the same rhetoric from Trump that they want to make a deal. We've pretty much destroyed their military. They want to meet. We're meeting with them. No one's meeting with them. No one is talking directly to them. Who would they be talking to, by the way? With Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner? If those two are sent, if Curley and Moe are sent to negotiate, you know that's not a serious negotiation. And we know exactly who their bona fides lie with. And obviously, they're both Zionists. I don't think it's wrong for me to tell you that. But obviously, they have a connection to the state of Israel. So obviously, anything they negotiate is going to be on behalf, again, as an extension of Netanyahu. The Kushner family is very good friends with Netanyahu. So we have to take things as what they are, folks. If we're not serious about sending someone, again, you should be sending a J.D. Vance, a Marco Rubio. Some people with some diplomatic ability to negotiate, but it's going to be on the Iranian terms. That's the way this is going to move forward. And as I said to you before, inside the Memorandum of Understanding, they're going to want this to be ratified again and approved by the UN Security Council. They want this to be recognized globally. That, yes, this is what the United States and Iran have come together with. This is their binding agreement with one another. Because obviously President Trump signing off on a piece of paper to the Iranians means absolutely nothing. And unfortunately, folks, that is the case here as this continues to go on. So we could say we've destroyed their military, their navy, their air defense, this bridge, that bridge, this factory. It's not stopping them. They are moving forward as time goes on. And we see here in this article in Just the News as well, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Bagai said that does not accord with our principles, claims that Iran has requested negotiations are merely reports. So this is what they're saying right now. So the idea that Trump is coming on saying we're talking to them, we're doing this, there's no sign of that. There's no direct conversation. There's no one begging for a deal. If anyone's begging for a deal, it's the United States at this point. And sadly, folks, this is clearly where we are right now. We're seeing that the naval blockade, which is still reinstated right now, it's costing anywhere between $400 and $500 million a day in losses. So we're spending a lot of money on this. Certainly when we ramp up the strikes, we're spending even more, likely between $1 to $2 billion. And what do we get from it? It's not making America any safer. It's not making the world a better place. It's actually upending everything. It's upending our commerce. I told you on yesterday's show, we are going to have global famine in the global south. That'd be Africa. That would be everything south of Russia. That'd be everything south of the U.S. border. Global famine. Because they can't get the right ammonia, urea, the sulfuric acid. They don't have access to it, so they can't create this nitrogen-based fertilizer, which feeds a large amount of people. Roughly 400 million people will be affected by this. That's a hell of a lot of people that will not have access to the food sources that they already have. So we see again, though, that we're pushing forward on this. Last week, the U.S. House narrowly passed the $1.15 trillion in defense spending, and the Pentagon claims the conflict with Iran has cost the taxpayers $37.5 billion thus far. I think it's probably much, much higher than that. I do, before we move on, want to play you a clip from Netanyahu. Again, we have to understand what he is pushing for here. This is probably more than likely what he's going to be discussing with President Trump today when he meets with him at the White House after Lindsey Graham's funeral. Take a listen.
As the nuclear program, we constantly exchange information. Our intel services and yours are working so close together that it's not that I'm going to present new information, but I think it's a good thing to have the opportunity to sit with our good friend President Trump and to hear what he has in mind, because I think in many ways it's his decision. But let me say one thing, and I think I should say it very, very clearly. If Iran attacks Israel, either directly or through proxies, either with ballistic missiles or UAVs or killer drones, it will make a terrible mistake, because our response, Israel's response, will be very, very forceful.
Very, very forceful. So in other words, he's going to present intelligence to President Trump. God knows what he's going to share. If there's any new developments as far as their nuclear weapons program, which, by the way, might actually be true, given the information I've received from people that are very privy to intelligence with the Pakistanis, that have said if negotiations seem unattainable to the Iranians, what they will do, they'll completely withdraw from the negotiations, they will withdraw from the non-proliferation treaty, and then they will present at some point to the world that they have nuclear capabilities. This is the next step in the game if we cannot negotiate this. If we don't put an end to this. It's putting the Iranians in a position where they're saying, okay, what would stop the United States? What would stop Israel from attacking us? From arming people inside the country to attack the government, from attacking police officers, from attacking civilians. What would stop this? Well, the Iranians made it very clear also that they want their sovereignty recognized. But this pushes them in a direction where they say to themselves, you know what? Maybe having a nuclear weapon would actually be beneficial to us. Just to have it, just to say we have it, because then at least maybe they'll back off from us. Maybe that's the next step they want to take. And it wouldn't be difficult for them to have access to this. They're very close with Russia. They're very close with China. They're very close with Pakistan. They trade with India as well. So there are options for them. Believe you me, there are options for them to get the necessary materials to put together and to do this. And by the way, they have the nuclear scientists as well that can obviously do this. So it's not something out of the ordinary, not by a long shot. But as this goes on, the closer that will become to being a reality. And I fear we're going back in that direction. I was very hopeful when we signed the memorandum that maybe Trump will push through. He'll realize we got to stop this. This war's got to stop. We have to get trade back up and running, coming out of the Persian Gulf. It's got to happen. Let's move forward. But he's not doing that. Now, why he's going back and forth, again, I don't know. I don't know what his intelligence or who briefs him, what they tell him. Maybe he gets a new idea in his head and shares it, and everyone says, that's a great idea, Mr. President. And he decides to go in and bomb again. But it's not going to work. We resume bombing. We were giving more threats about bombing. It's just not stopping what the Iranians are doing. And again, I wish I had more positivity to share with you on this, ladies and gentlemen. We now know that Trump has vowed to destroy Pickaxe Mountain if there's no deal. So this is where they believe the nuclear capabilities are being hidden right now. Again, we don't even know if the weaponry we have can even reach the facility in Pickaxe Mountain. But this is a site that is buried under the mountain, essentially. And they believe that striking this will, I guess, stop the conflict. I don't see how anything would indicate that we would do so. We know the Iranians are good at moving things from place to place. That's definitely true. We were told last June. What were we told? We destroyed the nuclear threat. The nuclear dust is buried underground, right? Everything's buried underground somewhere. But now in February, we had to go back in and get the nuclear dust again. And then the Iranians had to give it to us. Well, wait a minute. I thought it was all destroyed last year. When did this happen? Did they enrich more uranium? Notice how all that fell right apart. So which one is it? Was it successful last June? Midnight Hammer was not a success? I don't know which one it is. Epic Fury, which one wasn't a success that we have to continue this war on? Either the nuclear threat was the problem and we struck the sites and we took everything out, or we struck the sites and nothing really happened with it, which is probably what really took place. Again, don't look for any consistency in what they come on to tell us. Again, I think if they start attacking these nuclear sites again, then I believe the Iranians will up their ante and start striking at other targets, other places in the region where the U.S. has their support all stored and where the attacks are coming from. But never forget when I told you that the Iranians have a couple different targets they have to hit. That's all they really have to do. There's roughly about 13 or so bases in the region. And if they strike those targets again and again and again, they become inoperable. That's what it comes down to. And I think the Saudis right now have bitten off more than they can chew. Absolutely. They're absolutely regretting what took place when they decided to attack the Sana'a International Airport. And of course, as the plane was coming in, they decided to strike the airport. It's not going well for the Saudis right now, folks. And this, I think the way they got, the U.S. got them involved in this. Because why would Saudi Arabia just decide to attack Ansarallah right now? There's really no reason for it. What would be the purpose of this? If the United States came in and said to the Saudis, we'll give you nuclear capabilities to some extent to obviously enrich uranium, a nuclear deal, if you will. That's what it's being called, of course, which many critics have been saying, well, this puts them on path to getting a nuclear weapon. Well, of course it would. If you're enriching uranium, it puts you on the path for that. By the way, there's also rumors that the Saudis also already have a nuclear weapon. It's not unheard of. That's certainly a possibility. But notice how President Trump allowed them to do this, and then, of course, he pulls back what he said and says, well, the nuclear program won't go forward unless, of course, they sign the Abraham Accords. Because why would Israel want a nuclear-armed Saudi Arabia? Wouldn't make any sense. And, of course, if you're looking at the Greater Israel map, you'll notice that much of the northern part of Saudi Arabia is a part of Greater Israel. So if they're starting to take land, I don't think they want a nuclear-armed Saudi Arabia, should that ever come to be. So the Saudis went through with this. They attacked the Houthis inside Yemen. Now they're going back and forth. Now they're putting their oil industry at a big crossroads right now. Nothing's positive in that arena for them. And then the United States backtracks and says, well, you know what, you got to sign these Abraham Accords first before we even talk about the nuclear deal. It's amazing. Again, who is going to trust President Trump after the way he's been acting like this? Go through with this, attack them, and we got your back. And of course, we'll put you on the path to enrich uranium for a nuclear program, possibly even a nuclear weapons program. And then of course this happens, and then Trump reels it back in and says, no, you got to sign the Abraham Accords, which by the way are essentially dead at this point. There's no life to the the Abraham Accords at this point. What do you have? Bahrain, the UAE, Morocco? I mean, what is this alliance here? What is this? Well, I'm not against, obviously, peace breaking. I was very happy when President Trump got this rolling. But the way it's essentially dead now. There is no Abraham Accords. But that's why he's trying to get Saudi Arabia in on this. Other countries in the region. It simply isn't going to work, unfortunately. And the Saudis have got to be upset with President Trump at this point. A major fire broke out at the Saudi Aramco facility after what Saudi authorities have said was a drone attack targeting the site and the east-west pumping station on Monday. This is no good. This site here is the world's largest crude oil stabilization plant and processes roughly an estimated 5 to 7% of the global oil supply. This is detrimental to their economy, folks. This is everything. This makes it one of the most important facilities in the international energy market. Now it's inoperable. Now, Saudi Arabia obviously blamed the Iranian-backed armed groups in Iraq for launching the drone attack, saying that the drones targeted petroleum facilities. What did they expect? Seriously, what did they expect from this? That the Houthis were going to do nothing? Now, Saudi Arabia came out and said that it intercepted other drones targeting the petroleum sites, including locations near the capital of Riyadh, saying that they reserve the right to respond. Okay, fine. Keep going back and forth. Again, what the Houthis have told them said, okay, we've given you a little taste. We've hit Yanbu, which is, again, is the port city, which is, again, a major part of this whole operation here. They hit Jazan as well. Again, another major part of this. If they take these port cities out, if they take out the ability for them to ship their oil, because, again, they're not using their ports on the Persian Gulf side, then they have no way to export their oil. And if they do try to do that, they have to go north now, of course, through the Suez Canal. They have to go through the Mediterranean, through the Strait of Gibraltar, all the way around the continent of Africa, and then go to Asia that way. You're adding another 40, 50 days on their trip now. So now that costs more. It's unbelievable, folks. This is not very well thought out. Not very well. For the Saudis to do that, it just completely shows either they're in the pocket of the United States or they're completely incapable of critical thinking. This is really, really stupid. So this is bad. This is bad. This puts the vulnerability of the oil market now, their infrastructure, totally at a pause. And again, it's 5 to 7% of the global oil supply that is now, right now, sitting still. It's not operating at all. Before they were using, again, the ports on the western side of the peninsula. They were going through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Not much of a problem there. Now it is a problem because now the Houthis have closed off all access to Saudi ships. There is no shipping or transit going to Saudi Arabia. They will not allow it. And now you have, of course, the strikes on these facilities, making them essentially inoperable, up in flames. It's unbelievable. No, nothing positive on this front, folks. Nothing at all positive here. Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sari said that the group had struck crude oil supply and transport facilities linking eastern Saudi Arabia to the Red Sea export terminal at Yanbu. So the operation was carried out in response to what the Houthis described as Saudi drone incursions into Yemeni airspace. There you go. So now you have, again, the U.S. pushing the Saudis into this conflict. It's just becoming an ever greater war, folks. Ever greater war. And sadly, I see no end in sight for this. This is going to continue to get much, much worse. And it's going to have a great effect on the oil supply, certainly globally, but of course the price of oil as well. We're seeing oil drop today because, again, you hear the same old rhetoric. You hear that there are talks, there is a pause going on. It's not going to last. Once the supply dries up and the investors see that, you wait and see what happens to that price of oil. It's going to skyrocket. Never forget what I told you as well. If it stays over that $100 per barrel mark, you will see the price of oil skyrocket. It will continue to go up from there. So don't say I didn't warn you. Again, always stay prepared. That's exactly what you need to do. All right, let's move on to something else here. There's another story unfolding. This comes out of Slay News. It says here that the Soros family is reviving its campaign to install progressive prosecutors across the country. Well, no kidding. Pouring some approximate $1.7 million into political committees seeking to reshape local criminal justice systems ahead of the 2026 elections. God only knows what they could be planning for. Well, they have their cutouts in various cities, of course. We've seen this time and time again. This is what the Soros are doing with their money to bring in these prosecutors that do not prosecute law. They act as defense lawyers, essentially, and they shouldn't be doing that. Their job is to prosecute crime, not to allow more crime. But we see this. We saw this with Larry Krasner. We saw it with Chesa Bodine and San Fran Schmucko. Thank God I forgot the name of the L.A. district attorney, of course. His name escapes me right now. Thank God. I don't want to ever remember who it was. Destroyed Los Angeles. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But here we go. We have the campaign finance record showing that the Democratic PAC now controlled by radical billionaire George Soros' pathetic-looking son and heir, Alex Soros, transferred money to the federal and non-federal arms of the Justice and Public Safety PAC between March 2025 and April of 2026. The spending marks a new renowned effort to elect prosecutors who can weaken bail requirements, reduce criminal charges, limit prison sentences, and obstruct federal immigration enforcement, even after voters removed many Soros-backed officials from office. That effect was there. And there was this diversion, even in California, by the way, to stop being so soft on crime. Overwhelming support for Prop 36. This was crucial, of course, because the law and order in California was essentially gone. There was nothing there. You could do no wrong. We saw people breaking into stores ad nauseum. We saw crime spiking, property crime spiking. It's a mess. In California, by the way, today is still a mess. Don't misunderstand me. But it was so much more worse, especially when COVID began. And as time went on, it just kept getting worse. So even the good-to-do liberals in California figured out, you know what, this is not right. We're too soft on crime now. We're just a little bit too soft. Oh, there he is. I see his name here right now. George Gascon. Oh, yeah. Came from San Francisco all the way down to L.A. to destroy L.A. All at the behest, of course, of Soros. But look at this. I've told you before. It's time to bring back HUAC. The House Un-American Activities Committee. Bring it back. Why? Because this is completely un-American. This is completely undermining the rule of law. You are purposely putting people in a position that allows crime to spiral out of control, to allow criminals to run free, run roughshod over the entirety of the city, of the state, undermining federal immigration law. All this is terrible. Absolutely. But for years now, they've directed vast sums of their money, the Soroses, largely from their Open Society Foundation. I call it the Open Borders Society Foundation. That's exactly what it is. And they want to see more criminals on the streets. Now, of course, they're not affected by this, right? They live wherever the hell they live, far away from all this. But this is what brings down a community. This is what brings down a society. This creates disorder. And while you're distracted with what's going on in the streets, they get to do everything else clandestinely behind your backs, right? It's not up front and center anymore. But look at this. The billionaire transferred control of his roughly $25 billion political and philanthropic, what the hell's he done with that, to his son Alex in 2020. So he's the new face of the movement, of course. George Soros is almost 96 years old. And now his son, I think he's 40, if I'm not mistaken, will be the new heir of this, and he'll be more to the extreme than he is, which, if you can believe that. But this is all about taking down the country. So why do people not look at this and say, listen, you've given us Larry Krasner. You've given us Pamela Price. You've given us Kim Gardner. Kim Fox, George Gascon, Chesa Boudin. You've given us all these people that have made life much, much worse in these big cities in America. That's the point. There is no law and order. There is no civility. It's anything goes for the criminal, of course. That's what it's all about. And that way a lot of these bad ideas foment. More people flock to these areas when they see that it's the Wild West. And you see the desecration of these cities, sadly enough, that at one time or another were beautiful cities right here in America. Certainly that is not the case any longer. But these policies, these people have got to be scrutinized. Here's what's happening with a lot of these people, by the way, especially in a lot of these judgeships as well. Hear me out here. What they plan to do, and by the way, I heard this from the Justice Democrats years ago. Their plan was to put these judges in positions, or these DAs in positions, or these city council men or women in positions, have them run as, a moderate, if you will, and kind of hide their background. And once they get in office, of course, then they let the agenda go. And that's what happens in a lot of these cases. You have to look at who backs these candidates, because that will tell you everything you need to know about them. And if we don't do that, folks, if we don't put these judges or police chiefs or district attorneys or sheriffs or city council or mayors, if we don't put them under scrutiny, we're a lot of these races where people necessarily don't pay much attention to them, we run into some major problems. So we've got to stop this. This has got to stop. So wherever you see the Justice Democrats going, or the Democratic Socialist of America, or the whatever the hell they want to call them, so they're all communists. That's what they are. They don't believe in the rule of law. They believe in whatever they want to do. It's a free-for-all. That's what it comes down to, sadly enough. So we've got to be vigilant with this. We've got to be on it. This is their plan to take down America. This is what it comes down to. At the local level, get the DAs that don't prosecute the crimes, that release the criminals back on the streets to just keep reoffending. The recidivism rate is insane. When I was working in California, for instance, we had somebody break into the school I was working in. And the cops came and got him. He was there early hours before we got there, right after school was just ending. We still had some staff days. We had to come in and clean and what have you. And so he was arrested, and what the police said, they knew the guy. It said, we've arrested him for burglary, 3 or 4 times before this. So, you arrest him, he's out by lunch. They arrested him at, 7 a.m.? He's out by lunch, doing it again. God knows where. This is part of the stupidity of our country to allow this. Why would we allow this? This should be up front and center. Nobody should be standing for this. Why are we so complacent with this crap? We allow George Soros, everybody knows who George Soros is, anyone that pays attention, that he's doing this to undermine civility. So I've said this before, let's get HUAC back. Let's look into a lot of these people that fund these programs, that have these vile ways of how to subject the United States into communism or to Islamism or whatever the hell they want it to be, that strays away from our founding, and label it as what it is. It's completely un-American. It's completely un-American to fund purposely these district attorneys, these judges, whomever else it may be, that you're putting at these local levels, to create strife in these communities. We don't have to live like this. That's the problem. People think, oh, well, he was voted. We don't have to live like this. We can remove these bad judges. We can remove and recall these DAs. It's got to happen. Absolutely. Yep. Again, folks, I try to tell you, I try to be vigilant with this and tell you what's going on, but you have to speak out against the people that want to tear down your community. They do not want to build your community up. They want to tear it down. And that's what they're working on. This is all they work on, is ways in which they can do that with their minions that run for office, that are just bought and paid for, again, by the Soroses, by the PACs of the DSAs, if you will. Again, we see this in the Wall Street Journal article. A Democratic Socialist bartender rattles party elite for run for Wisconsin governor. So now we have a schmuck running for governor now that is a complete communist. What's her name? Francesca Hong. Yep. A dues-paying member of the Democratic Socialist of America has establishment Democrats rallied ahead of the August 11th primary for governor that has showcased the party's division and disarray. Now, apparently she's leading in the race right now, somehow. According to a Marquette Law School poll, the 37-year-old state representative and part-time bartender, and complete communist, I added that part in there, seems to be outpacing the former lieutenant governor and former top state administrator and several other more prominent Democrats. Unbelievable. What, does Wisconsin want to look like California soon? Is that really what they want? That's what they're vying for right now, to elect a dunce like this? Look at this. Look at this stupid crap. I hate when they put this crap in articles. Hong, Wisconsin's first Asian American state legislator. Oh my God. So amazing in 2026, folks, that someone that is not white could run for office. It's amazing. It's like they're almost convinced like it's impossible to do. It's unbelievable. It really is. Is solidly on the side calling for a vast expansion of government into virtually every corner of life, from free childcare and mass transit to publicly run grocery stores and the elimination of all college debt. Now let's stop for a second. Let's think about this. Where have we heard this stupidity before? Now, it sounds nice, doesn't it? Free childcare, free grocery store, free mass transit. Maybe we'll put some a freeze on the rent there, in Madison, Wisconsin, and Green Bay. Maybe we'll throw some of that in there too. That sounds nice, right? Hey, I like that. I don't have to pay for anything. It'll be good. Well, folks, everybody has to pay for something that is funded by the government. It's called the taxpayer, right? That's how it works. Sadly, people think free means something true, like Bernie Sanders makes it out to be. There is nothing free. As Milton Friedman once said, he said there's no such thing as a free lunch. He's right. Someone has to pay for everything at some point. Nothing is just on the house. Someone is paying for that product or that commodity or that service. Someone is paying for it. And in this case, it's probably likely going to be the taxpayer, the dunce in Wisconsin that votes for this moron. But they cover the same old, right? The economic disparities, the widespread skepticism in government. So what we should do is we should make government bigger. Like the way government's working? Let's expand government. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it in every little aspect of your life. Now, what moron would buy this? We need less government. We need more self-autonomy. That's what it should be. We govern ourselves better than the government can, obviously. And if you're a law-abiding citizen, you're doing a great job already. Okay, good. But look at these little communists here at this meeting here. Hong for go. Look at this. She backs legalizing marijuana to fund high-speed broadband and supports a state-run development bank, whatever the hell that means. Medicare for all. So again, you'll have single-payer health care in the state of Wisconsin. Everyone will have to put into that. A 32-hour work week. So you're going to work less. You're going to pay more. Because she's not going to allow any pay cuts, though. Get that. She's going to tell businesses, you know what? If they work 32 hours a week, can't cut that pay. Francesca Hong, who is a bartender, like AOC, who's probably about as smart as the bar itself. I'm going to tell you how to run your business. Isn't that going to be great? Where have we seen this before? Abolishing ICE, obviously that's a given with the DSA. Restoring voter rights to felons. Yes, if you're a criminal, you should definitely be able to vote in people like, the Larry Krasners, the DAs like that, the George Gascons, the Chesa Bodines. Vote for people that are soft on crime policies. Oh, yeah, keep that up. People that'll empty the prisons out. Absolutely. And the eventual elimination, or at least a reduction, of prisons and police. So in other words, chaos to a T. And I'm sure that's going to attract so many businesses to the state of Wisconsin. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be paradise on earth, folks. Absolutely paradise on earth. Now, I do want to play one thing for you. This is Joe Scarborough. I generally disagree with Joe Scarborough on pretty much everything. At one point, I was calling him moron Joe Scarborough, but in this case, he's got it right. The only thing is, I'm shocked it took him this long to figure it out. Here's Joe Scarborough on his show today talking about the Democratic Socialist of America.
The national co-chair of the DSA went on television and showed us exactly who she is and what her party believes. Abolish the U.S. Senate, the presidency as we know it, the Supreme Court as we know it? True. Abolish ICE? Absolutely. Open the borders? Defund the Pentagon? Empty the prisons? Have the government seize private companies? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All questions answered with complete conviction. And all those responses completely disqualifying for a party that likes to tell people they're really just about health care and tax reform. I got no problem with debate. Barack Obama might say that a party that stops debating the big issues with itself stops growing. But there's a difference between pushing your party to be better and asking it to abandon every single thing that makes it worth belonging to in 2026.
This isn't the same Democratic Party. What is he talking about? Now, he's right about all these policies being insane, of course. I'm glad Joe Scarborough is on board with that. But this has been going on for some time now. This isn't something that just was cooked up just recently. This has been their platform for quite some time. Bernie Sanders helped popularize it back when he ran in 2015, 2016. And it got the younger crowd that I guess, was enthralled by this. They were very enthused about free this, free that, Medicare for all. Bernie Sanders style, yeah. He has no idea how to run healthcare, but he knows that single-payer systems are the best. Why? Because all communist countries use it. So in this case, government is the absolute problem. Absolutely. But this is somebody who is dangerous. This Hong, whoever the hell she is. This is going to be problematic for the people of Wisconsin should she get in. Look at how even the Wall Street Journal, they gloss over the fact that this is a dangerous person. Despite a combative online presence, Hong is a soft-spoken in person, lacking the firebrand insurgent style of Senator Bernie Sanders, the nation's highest-profile Democratic socialist, a.k.a. communist. Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Soft-spoken. Yeah, they're all quiet, aren't they? Yeah. I'm sure Lenin was real quiet himself. Unbelievable. This has got to stop. And look, I'm reading this garbage here. She sat down with an interview, and of course, she says, I think my multiple identities is what helps me connect with a lot of different types of people. The only wage worker in the race, the daughter of South Korean immigrants, a single mother and a renter. Oh, yes, she knows everything about real estate, I'm sure. Everything about how to run things. While she sits on the government dole and serves you drinks. Now, is there anything wrong with serving people drinks? Of course not. But why do we need somebody who lacks this experience to run the entirety of the state of Wisconsin and who has ties with the Communist Party? That's my problem with all this. Again, if you're going to have yourself run for office, you should have experience running something, not just your mouth. That's all this woman can do. Whether soft-spoken or seems so sweet or whatever the hell she may come off as, this is a dangerous person. Absolutely dangerous. I said it before, I'll say it again. Bring back HUAC, 100%. Get rid of these people. These people need to be under scrutiny. These people are tearing down America, and they will continue to do so for as long as we allow it to happen. But how could the people of Wisconsin not be duped by this? How could they be so drawn to somebody like this who will completely destroy their state as they know it? And the taxes are going to have to rise. People working less, people working less, so therefore they're going to be paid less, That's what it'll be. Again, she can't come in and force a business, tell them what to pay for how long people are working. She just can't do that. There are certain things that are not going to add up here, but it sounds good in the campaign, so people buy into it. 32-hour work week, great. Can I have Friday, Saturday off, maybe Monday, Sunday, and Saturday off? Great, I'll still get paid that much? Sounds nice, doesn't it? Well, it all sounds nice in the beginning, folks, until you have nothing to eat in the grocery store, until you can't put gas in your vehicle, until you can't pay for anything, because nothing's there anymore, because the businesses are leaving. Yeah, it all sounds great at first, but it always ends up falling apart. Oh, one last thing I do want to go over really quickly, folks. We got a few minutes remaining in today's program. This comes out of Gadget Review, and it says here that in the city council chambers across the country, officials have celebrated the removal of the flock safety cameras as a privacy victory. Very good, right? However, the caveat with this article, within months, Axon installation crews often appear at the same poles, bolting in a replacement plate readers, replacing the flock cameras. So now you have Axon coming in and just simply replacing what was previously there. Now, according to Tech Times, 53 cities have canceled flock contracts, citing unauthorized federal data access, false alerts, and mass surveillance of innocent drivers. Absolutely. Many aren't abandoning license plate readers altogether. They're just switching vendors, though. That's the caveat. The surveillance footprint isn't shrinking. It's just simply rebranding. And by the way, let me just say this to you, folks, because this part is very, very important. This comes from CNBC. You'll love this. It says here, President Trump disclosed buying between 1 million and 5 million in Axon Enterprise stock on February the 10th. 2 weeks later, ICE posted a notice seeking a 5-year, $220 million Taser contract for about 17,800 devices. Getting rich off that privy information, President Trump? Unbelievable. All right, folks, thank you for being here as always. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you're always staying prepped with your essentials, especially as prices and scarcity rises. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow from another episode of the Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, God bless.